we'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you. We're excited to have you here this afternoon. We promised that we were going to be talking about long haul COVID. But before we begin our discussion, we always have to just kind of make sure that everyone understands something very clearly, that the information that's being provided here this afternoon is for information and educational purposes only. No information that's being presented here is intended to be a substitute for a visit to your primary health care physician. Now, Dr. Prasad is a scientist. He's not a medical doctor. So when Dr. Prasad says something, he is saying it from a scientific and observational point of view and a research point of view. So we strongly recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust. Now, my role here, this call, we have this every Sunday. I'm Jonathan Jones, and I'm the research director for the Healthcare Support Association of America. This is not primarily an Engage Global discussion, except that we talk a lot about Engage Global products, and we're being supported by a lot of the brain power and the scientific expertise that's connected to Engage Global. But I've been in the research and nutrition consultation business for, must go back about 30, 35 years or so ago. Just to give you a little bit of my background, my real background was computer electronics and engineering. But when I watched my mother die, that told me I was in the wrong line of work. And because the nurse said to me in intensive care that we're praying for her immune system to kick in. And I said, you're kidding me, right? And this is 20 years ago. You didn't have an immune system kicker in or available? So I said it was time for me to go find one. And I'd never be in a situation again where I did not have an immune system kicker in her when it was needed, and when someone who I cared about was looking for information and looking for answers. So that changed my trajectory. My wife and I both started focusing in on health and nutrition from that point on. And we're very fortunate that we have stumbled across a micronutrient. And in my arrogance, I thought that I knew all there was to know about health and nutrition by the time I met Jeff Ashby. But he introduced this micronutrient and Dr. Prasad, and we'll introduce Dr. Prasad in just a moment. But just to lay the foundation for what our discussion is about today. Has anyone ever heard of COVID-19? I know it couldn't possibly ask a more stupid question than that one, right? But I would like to just show you something real quick, because people are starting to forget about COVID-19, or they're starting to at least pretend like it's not there. But I just did a quick Google this morning just to see what's being said about COVID-19. So I went searching for just long COVID, and this is the first thing that came up. And they give some of the symptoms. They just itemize the symptoms right here, the most common symptoms, and then the less common symptoms, serious symptoms, and so on. But what I wanted to know also was, well, what does the government say is the best thing to do if you have COVID? So I Googled that also. And the first thing that I came up with was from the CDC's website. So the CDC says this. Let me move this off my screen so I can see. They talk about COVID-19 boosters. This discussion is not about vaccines or boosters. I am neither pro nor against vaccines. So please do not take anything that I'm saying here out of context. Don't misconstrue this. I'm just presenting information and facts now. So what it says here, the first 3 bullet points under what you need to know is that COVID vaccine booster. And by the way, the vaccine has saved many lives. So let's just make that clear for the record. The top recommendation here, these 3 bullets is what's put there. Bullet number 2 is the one that stood out to me. It said people are protected best from severe COVID-19 illness when they stay up to date with their COVID-19 vaccines, which includes a booster for many people. And currently, the recommendation is for anyone over 12 to be vaccinated and boosted. I think right now, some people are on about their 4th or 5th booster shots. So it's that's the current recommendation from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. And there are currently 3 No, there's several vaccines. You can see them right here: Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson and Johnson. I guess those are the three main ones here that are being recommended as boosters. So where does this take us? Since this is the recommended approach to dealing with COVID-19, everyone has a right to ask themselves the question, why is it still a problem? Just a couple of days ago, it was published that England, they're up to 70% vaccinated or natural immunity, 70%. And the doctor who was presenting that report said that he believed the rate was higher in the United States, but I didn't actually go searching for that information. So, but that's where we are now. But let's talk a little bit about long COVID. So when I Googled symptoms of long COVID, I showed you that first box that came up. But as I scroll up the page, look at some of the responses that are listed. The responses include some of the same exact symptoms, but the one that jumped out to me was right here at the Mayo Clinic. The Mayo Clinic talks at length about the long-term effects of COVID-19. They include things that you would scare you to death, actually, to be honest with you. Organ problems. When Dr. Prasad in our discussion is going to be talking a little bit about tissue and cell damage, please be mindful that when he talks about tissue and cell damage, that tissue and those cells are connected to organs. And that's the reason why the Mayo Clinic here could post information like this. The opening paragraph says COVID-19 symptoms can persist for months. The virus can damage the lungs, heart, and brain, which increases the risk of long-term health problems. And then they go on to explain where this statement, long haulers, because that's kind of a nickname that's been given to it. But then there's the list: fatigue, shortness of breath, cough, joint pain, chest pain, memory, muscle, loss of smell, depression or anxiety. You know, I mean, if you just stop with depression and anxiety, that would probably take most of us and drag us into the long COVID category. By the way, there's a doctor who's come up with a way to actually measure the impact or the presence or absence of long COVID. So they're actually coming out with that information for us. Fever, dizziness, worsening symptoms after physical or mental activities, etc. And the list just goes on and on and on. So that really kind of brings us to the point of our discussion, because I don't want to just depress you with presenting you with a whole bunch of just, facts about how bad it is to have COVID and to suffer with it. If any of you here are on this call now, as a matter of fact, if you wouldn't mind, if you in the reactions can just show by either a thumbs up or raising your hand to indicate whether you have had COVID or are a COVID survivor. We would just love to see that just for the record. I should have put together a poll to capture that information, so I apologize for that. So I don't know if you can see that, Dr. Prasad, but the list is going on, and so far I see 6 or so, 2, 4, 6 that have indicated that they have either had COVID and in some way been impacted by it. Yeah, there's a couple there. So seven hands that are up. Okay, so I'm glad you're still here. So I don't know when you got it, whether it was early in or whether it was with one of these variants right now, but I'm glad you're here. So let me stop talking now. I want to introduce to you Dr. Kedar Prasad. Dr. Prasad has just a storied history where Dr. Prasad has been published more than 250 times and currently is working on yet another publication at age 84. Dr. Prasad got his PhD in radiation biology. It was a 7-year course, and this man finished it in 3 years and became the world's first radiation biologist PhD. And I think that that's just indication of a brain of brains. So, and he's also been published he's authored more than 25 books. Is it at 25, Dr. Prasad?
Yeah, 29 now.
He's at 29 now. So I missed out on the last 4. I'm sorry. He's 30, probably hit 35 by the time he decides to just slow down and stop. But Dr. Prasad was also a member of the Nobel Peace Prize nominating committee, and he's told us many times, which I think is amazing, that it was Dr. Linus Pauling that was his mentor, and that was one of the things that inspired him to get into this work. He's currently the Chief Science Officer for Engage Global. So, Dr. Prasad, thank you so much for being willing to come on our program on a Sunday afternoon. I know that there's many other things you could be doing.
Thank you, Jonathan, for inviting me. I always enjoy Sunday. I have nothing else to do here.
Well, fantastic.
Go for a walk and write a book.
Okay. Well, we're going to try to break that up a little bit and give you something to do on Sunday.
Yes, that's right. That's why I enjoy so much.
All right. Well, wonderful. So tell us a little bit, Dr. Prasad, just kind of as an introduction, those couple of screenshots that I showed from the CDC and the Mayo Clinic, is that one of the things that motivates you to be behind micronutrients and to help promote micronutrients in people's diets?
Yeah, I think, because right now, the statistic was, and you mentioned some of them, that's 2/3 or roughly 70% of the people who have survived COVID, and they have all this kind of mentioned the statistics of various kind of illness, and you mentioned most of them, but really that doesn't look like even one organ which is protected. Looks like it is generalized, and the reason is because they produce at the time when you are suffering, and ICU, especially the patient who have gone to ICU and survived. There's so much damage by the pro-inflammatory cytokines, which are released by extensive death of the cells, and the virus is doing it. So even though you survived it, but during this time, that is what surprising. During this time, even if you know it, that extensive amount of free radicals are being generated, extensive amount of pro-inflammatory cytokines are being generated, and potential of cytokine storms is there. But they have not thought of using a micronutrient to decrease it. Never did. Sometime I heard that some people in ICU get a very high dose of just vitamin C alone, somebody told me.
Right.
But I have not seen any publication for that. But so in combination, whatever they are doing it, because they use a lot of highly potent anti-inflammatory agents, which is good. But also they should have used to reduce the potential in retrospect, and in future, they should use micronutrient, multiple micronutrient, not just one, multiple micronutrient during the crisis period, during the treatment period.
Right.
And by doing this thing, you could have reduced the risk of some of the toxicity or some of the organ damage, cell damage that you mentioned, Jonathan. And so, but it is still never too late, because these things are like chronic diseases that we get it, you get a diabetes, whether it is induced by during the COVID infection or by some other reason, or you are obese, but biological process is the same, namely increased oxidative stress and inflammation. No matter what the inducing agents are, could be virus, could be something, but they are there. Could be aging factor, there could be multiple environmental factor, genetic factor.
Right.
The process is still same thing there. So the question is, how do you reduce optimally?
Before you go to reducing the impact of these free radicals, just to try to make it clear, because I know that there's some individuals here that may not be real clear with what you just said, especially at the very beginning. Now, the virus has the ability to bind to the ACE2 receptors. You said that.
Yeah, now, the virus is that's the way they enter the cell. They
correct.
Bind with the lung cell receptors. And
okay.
So, and especially virus, there is a spike called a spike protein.
Yes.
That protein binds with the receptor of the lung cell called ACE2, and then enters the cell.
Okay.
And then they start replicating.
Okay, pause right there. Now, just again, so for everybody's benefit, you're talking about one virus. All it takes is one. But if it can connect itself by the spikes to the ACE2 receptor, the ACE2 receptor is it's like a little key like this, little thing that sits on the outside of the cells. It can find its way and lock itself in there. It enters the cell. And that's how it begins to replicate. Now, you said that creates inflammation and inflammation response. That's because the immune system is failing to do something, or the immune system is overreacting?
No, first, in the beginning, what virus does, they turn off this signal that generally they send, like, interferon, they call it an interferon.
Okay.
The cell produces it as soon as something bad happens. That molecule sends signal to immune system. You send immune cells or antibody to fight it.
Right.
And so virus, first thing is that they try to do it, but some message goes through the immune system, and if your immune system is very good, they will send the what is called neutrophil, which kills the virus cell, neutrophil, macrophages, T cells, natural killer cells, and also antibody. All these things together.
If the immune system is strong, they will respond. But did you say the virus shuts off the alarm mechanism?
Yes, we try to do it. But if you don't take it, if your immune system is poor, they will immediately shut off. So you can't use the immune system by preventing this particular molecule called interferon gamma.
But Dr. Prasad, that's for me, that's amazing. I didn't know that. So the virus, literally, if your immune system is weak, the virus stops it from being able to put the call out to the immune system to come and help.
Right. I mean, virus, because he's just smart. I mean, they do it. And so the idea is that your immune system is, before virus has a chance to do that, and if your immune system is strong, and they just say, some foreign substance has come. Okay. They have to kill. They respond immediately, and virus may not have a chance to produce enough message to send it. So
that's beautiful.
It depends upon your immune function, really.
So Dr. Prasad, right off the bat here, there's a strong argument for keeping your immune system robust.
Robust, exactly.
Wow. Okay. Now, you wrote a paper about this before there was even a vaccine. And I think some of our audience right now is aware of that, but some may not. So I brought it with me because I think people ought to know about this. And you guys have to excuse my little crayon marks. But when I put a crayon marker on something, it doesn't mean that it's significant. It just means that I'm trying to dumb that part down for me. So I'm sorry about that. And I couldn't erase it all before I got it on the screen here. But this was published by Dr. Prasad.
Yeah.
So there was no vaccine in existence. They're sitting around holding hands and lighting candles and hoping something's going to happen. Dr. Prasad says, I got an idea. Right. So if you look at this, so it's called supplementation with a mixture of micronutrients may improve ability of immune system to fight COVID-19 infection. So Dr. Prasad, tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, but also that since then I have did some additional finding on research that, for example, micronutrient such as NAC and glutathione can bind. I'm talking. So there are two components there. One is prevention component. One is treatment. How micronutrient can help in prevention, and how micronutrient is in treatment. And like you said, Jonathan, for me, the vaccination remains one of the best options, and in combination, your immune system will be much stronger than, say, by individual agents. But anyway, I want to tell you, and by the way, I'm going to take a 4th dose tomorrow, booster dose, because I'm at risk, by virtue of my age, and so this is extremely important. But the thing is that question is how micronutrient help in prevention. So the two steps that micronutrient does it, and a specific micronutrient in this case is glutathione and N-acetylcysteine. Either of them can bind with the spike protein. And if you bind with the spike protein, it becomes inactive. And inactive cannot bind to the receptor.
Oh, so wow.
That's one of the steps that it does it.
Wow. Pause 1 second there.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody understood what you just said. So we're talking about that NAC or N-acetylcysteine has the ability by itself to bind to the spike protein.
Yeah.
Okay. And you also said the glutathione has the ability to bind to the spike protein. So if your glutathione levels are high, and if you got NAC in your body, you got a double whammy binding to spike proteins.
That's why we said that combining the alpha lipoic acid, which also increases glutathione level, and N-acetylcysteine by itself also, not only via glutathione, but by itself bind it. That's
amazing. I didn't know that either. So thank you for adding that. Okay, so that's the first thing. The first approach is glutathione, N-acetylcysteine, and of course the benefit of alpha lipoic acid all can take control of the spike protein, the virus itself, and stop it from binding to my ACE2 receptors.
Yeah,
I like those. Thank you.
It is very interesting. It is very interesting, and also these two, N-acetylcysteine, glutathione, also have the ability to bind with the receptor. So if you bind with the receptor at the same site,
that stops it from binding with my receptor.
Yeah, and so the receptor is bind. Even though virus is active, it can't bind it.
It can't do a thing. It's sitting there with its handcuffed.
So micronutrient in this case, these two specific micronutrient these are done in experimental system. They have two steps where they can block the virus, inactivate the spike protein so that it cannot bind. If some virus escape that, then you have a receptor which is inactivated, so they can't enter it. So this is one way, powerful way of preventing it.
That's beautiful, Dr. Prasad. That's amazing.
Yeah. See, the antibody works once the virus enters into the cell. See, the antibody or the vaccine works once the virus, as soon as it enters. If you have a vaccine, antibody comes strong and kills the virus, so you don't develop the symptoms.
That's good. That's good.
But in this case, so that's why the combination works by different mechanisms. Right. That's why the combination of micronutrient and vaccine is so important for total prevention of the blocking the entry of the virus.
Well, we're clearly seeing that the fact that there's so many so-called breakthrough infections, that's an indication that there's something not quite there.
Yeah.
With it. So that this double combination is important. Let me ask you this, Dr. Prasad. The recent study has indicated that this S1 or the spike protein is literally making itself into the bloodstream, not connected to the virus, but just the spike protein itself. Are you saying, does this suggest, Dr. Prasad, that glutathione and NAC could bind to those spike proteins that's floating around in the blood?
I was not aware of that S protein. S protein is a part of the virus.
Yeah, they're saying
the virus is there. S protein as a free protein cannot be floating around.
There's a study that shows that it is, but they're finding it in the blood right now. And some doctors that
then it has no function in terms of helping the virus to replicate or anything.
None whatsoever. That's why they're shocked that it's in the blood.
Yeah. So that I don't know what the function would be of S1 protein.
It is not, there is no function for it. They just happen to make this observation. So that's what my question to you is, does it make sense to conclude then that glutathione and NAC that's in your body could bind to that and help scavenge that up?
It is possible that if there are too many viruses and the virus gets killed, it is possible that the one being digested,
the debris,
and then they get some of those S protein can get released and free in the blood. It is possible, but that would be harmless. But glutathione and NAC can bind it, because if they can bind with when they are in the virus, they can bind also, and any potential problem they can take care.
That's the point. That's the point right there, Dr. Prasad. Because if for some reason those pieces are floating around someplace and contributing in some way to thrombosis, contributing to the liver issues, contributing to organ problems or whatever, glutathione, the body's own defense mechanism, should be able to now bind to that and help Get
Because
rid of it.
anytime you have a new protein that our body has never seen it,
Right.
they consider a foreign protein. And when there is a foreign protein, it is the job of the immune system to take care of that. But in this case, if there is enough to remove the protein, any kind of protein that you take, any
Right.
foreign antigen, any
Right.
foreign substance. So S1 is a foreign substance for the body. And so, but the good thing is that if immune system has not taken care of few of them floating around, then the glutathione and N-acetylcysteine can take care of that.
So there's another strong argument
Yes.
in favor
Yes.
of adding micronutrients, your
Yes.
formula,
Yes,
to our diet.
multiple micronutrient, where there is a high dose of N-acetylcysteine and alpha lipoic acid together, because you have to then elevate glutathione highest level. If
Right.
you just use N-acetylcysteine, then it may elevate glutathione some, but not the maximum amount.
Right.
But N-acetyl by itself, not via antioxidant. So N-acetyl has a double function.
Oh,
By
wow.
itself can do it, and it can also do via glutathione.
I did not know that N-acetylcysteine was considered an antioxidant, Dr. Prasad.
Yes.
So it's a
And
precursor.
it directly binds with the either receptor and also the S protein.
Precursor to glutathione, and it's an antioxidant in itself. That's a double plus. That's
Double
big.
function, yeah.
That's big. Well, your paper that I just kind of scrolled through, you say at the end of your discussion, this is the old one. I can't wait I haven't seen the new one, but it says here, because of limitations of effectiveness of a single micronutrient in human,
Yeah.
a hypothesis is proposed that a mixture of micronutrients may be more effective. And I hope you don't mind me editing this, but I'm going to say is more effective than a single micronutrient in improving immune function by reducing oxidative stress and inflammation, and thereby eliminating of COVID-19 infection. This mixture of micronutrients may also reduce the risk of developing adverse health effects among survivors of COVID-19 infection. So, Dr. Prasad, you were writing about long haulers before long haulers were even identified.
I forgot that I said that.
You did. You said it, and I'm not going to let you forget it. You said it. It's in writing right here.
This is very important. This is very, very important, this line. And at that time, we were not even aware of any adverse, because there were not much survivors there, long-term survivors.
No, there were no long-term survivors.
But because of what happens in the body during the infection, I thought at the time that must be some adverse effects, side effects. And because of that, I thought that the mixture of micronutrient would be very, very important to reduce the risk of any potential adverse effect. Even people who have not taken it thus far, say, and a new person who has this thing, still it will reduce the progressor of bad fatigue and other kind of symptoms that you produce it. That by reducing oxidative stress and inflammation, they are the two main things which contributes all ill health.
Right.
And so micronutrient that we propose a mixture that can reduce that and thereby at least block the progression of the adverse effect of COVID that we saw people are observing it.
That's
so even
beautiful.
though you have not to start right away after COVID infection, but you are 1 year later, still it will be very useful for you to have a micronutrient mixture in your body, not only to improve immune function, but also reduce the progression of the adverse effect of COVID.
That makes perfect sense. And because I was aware of your research and have come to know a little bit about Micro Daily, I went to visit a friend in Tampa. He was going to be on here today, but at the last minute, just before the meeting, some friends showed up at his house to take him out to dinner and surprised him. So that's a surprise for me. But I'm going to just tell you his story because I decided to call him up a couple of days ago now. I left him when I stopped by. He let me stay at his house, and I gifted him a bottle of the methylated. He's walking around with an oxygen tank. He's a survivor. He was in the hospital for I think about a year. So he's got severe lung damage. He's got all kinds of problems. So he has to wear oxygen. If he goes outside, he's got a portable oxygen tank. He can't be, he's 59 or 60, 61. He might be a year older than me. So that's his life now. He's disabled. And he told me all about this herbalist who has basically, he's crediting with saving his life. He said it's the absolute best stuff. He shows me the concoction that he's taking. He loves it. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But I left him a bottle of Micro Daily. I didn't say anything. I said, just take a couple of them, twice a day. And about 3 or 4 weeks later, he says, how do I get some more of this stuff? I think it's helping me. That's all he said. He just sent me a text. He simply said, how do I get some more? So I helped him to sign up as a preferred customer. And when I called him, I said, why? What did you notice? He said, well, I'm not as winded. He said, I breathe better. And he says, and I have more energy. I'm able to walk for longer periods without being completely gassed. How much you take? He said, well, I just take 2 capsules twice a day. I said, well, imagine what would happen if you took a little bit more. So he increased his order. So he's going to start taking a little bit more. So help us now, Dr. Prasad, with just that one situation. Could you explain why he would have noticed any positive results? Is there?
Yeah, because see, under that kind of condition, if you are not taking the right kind of micronutrient, your immune system is poor, your lung is not working properly, and because probably he has a lung fibrosis, and once the lung is damaged, they produce more inflammation.
Oh wow!
And inflammation is more, so it is almost like a vicious cycle.
Oh wow!
And so it is all progressive, and it will worse and worse. And by doing this micronutrient, those events get reduced, and therefore gradually you start feeling better. And so I'm sure that in a 60 days or so, he will feel still better, because at least the lung the damage that's seen in the lung may not progress, because it was a vicious cycle. The damage of the cell would produce free radical inflammation, and then more damage and more, So that cycle, you block it, and then you will feel better. Overall health and energy and everything else.
So that means he's absorbing more oxygen. That would give him more energy right away.
Yeah.
And his brain cloud, that could be because of low oxygenation.
Low oxygen. So he should take also what do you call brain boost.
Yep. He added that to his subscription.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that will be very useful for his health.
Very good.
Keep track of that and see how it does.
Oh yes, I certainly will. I think he's going to be another one of your case studies that you'll be able to write about. So we'll get a hold of his doctor and put that in your possession as well. Sure. So very good. Well, Jeff, I think also has a story that he wants to share with our audience of someone who benefited from micronutrients as well.
Absolutely, Jonathan. And what an incredible evening we have had already. The way that you were able to pull up Dr. Prasad's paper that, yes, we were aware of it, but you kind of lose track of time. And when you pointed out that Dr. Prasad had published this paper before there were any vaccines, like you said, when people are standing around lighting candles, hoping that, that and prayer would do it. It's amazing that we have Dr. Prasad here with us. And, I just, the smile on his face, as you pointed out, that closing statement, and he says, I forgot I even said that. And it's like, Dr. Prasad doesn't forget anything. You guys, no. at 87 years old, he doesn't forget about anything. And it was just like, oh yeah, of course I said that.
Yeah, that brilliant statement.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We we have no idea. We're just walking amidst a giant here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jonathan, as you sent me a text just about 10 minutes before we got on this call about somebody that could, discuss and talk a little bit about their experience with COVID. This one came to mind. And he starts out. This was just last week. We were doing a virtual in-home presentation, and he just grabs his wife's phone and starts to talk on video about what's going on and the significance of his comment about his wife. First off, her name is Deanna, and you'll see it because it says at the bottom of the video, Deanna's phone. Deanna has suffered from an autoimmune disease called Addison's, and she would get every sickness that came along, and he talks a little bit about that and her miraculous improvement with the micro daily, and then he talks about his own experience back when COVID first came out and when we were all just so concerned about who you were around, how long you were around them. If you had, practiced the, washing the hands and distancing and, doing all these kind of things. And so Dennis just in pure Dennis form talks about this. So let me just share my screen. We're all three of us are highlighted right now, but let's go ahead and we can just have Dennis's comments here. Dennis.
Well, my name is Dennis Perrin. I live here in Gooding. Deanna is my sweetheart for going on 52 years. So the micro daily, to me, it's the reason I got my wife. She was having severe health problems. We tried everything. And then Bud introduced us to micro daily. And it was just a slow period, but she used to catch everything that came along, everything. She would drive school bus, and anytime a kid got sick, she'd have to recuperate all through the weekend. And it's just changed her health, 180 degrees. She's doing really well now on everything. So that's my testimony on it. My personal testimony, I've always been healthy. So I haven't had any major things going on. I could feel energy boosts and that kind of things with it. But when COVID was in full blast to start with, I was exposed to COVID with my brother. We went to Portland to pick up a pickup, and I was in the pickup with him for like 25 hours straight. And the day we get back, he gets really sick. We find out a week later he's got COVID.
Wow.
And I never had any symptoms at all, nothing, ever. And then later on, my son got it, and I was working with him. And my immune system was such that I never had problems with COVID. Now a later strain, I got it for like a day, a day and a half, and that was it. So it's just like Dr. Prasad said, if your immune system is up and ready, the body can handle about anything that comes along. So I'm faithful at taking my micro daily, and I know it works.
It sounds like he was actually right here at the meeting.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget that he's on a video.
Yeah, but I do have one other individual. I saw him join as a participant, and I remember getting a call from, oh goodness, I don't see him there any longer. Anyway, I was going to just randomly invite Leland Patton on, and he ended up phoning us from the hospital where he had been hospitalized for COVID. But he says, Jeff, I've got to share this with you. The doctors just came in and they were asking me all kinds of questions about what I was doing different than everybody else. Because even though he was hospitalized, the tests that they ran on him and the significance of what his case of COVID looked like versus everybody else that they admitted to the hospital. He had a team of doctors in there, giving him the the nth degree as to what's different. And he says, Jeff, it's the micro daily.
Wow.
Even though he was there, the doctors pointed out significant difference in all of his blood panels and in the tests that they ran. So I just looked through the participants here, and I'm not seeing him, but that was
Wow.
significant for me to have somebody in that type of a situation. But
wow, that is that is amazing, Jeff, just to hear that.
Yeah.
But I think that some of the ones that are here, even of the 9 who raised their hands, that said that they were they've either had COVID during this time period or not, they probably have some of the same stories. I think Kathy raised her hand. Is she still on?
And so did Jody, and she's better.
And Jody, go ahead, Jody.
Okay. Hi, Jonathan, Dr. Prasad, Jeff. Hi.
Hey.
I got COVID 1st of January, and I was surprised because I have been on Micro Daily, but I was concerned because in the past years I'd had pneumonia a couple times a year, and being on the Micro Daily with the CBD and the Brain Boost and the Eye Boost and everything, I had hardly no symptoms on COVID. I did not have any breathing problems. I did not have, I just was maybe a little tired, but I could not believe it because you remember when it started, right after 2019, people were dying when they got COVID, right? Yeah. And so I was concerned because I've had lung problems and I'm very healthy, but I know it had to be because of the Micro Daily. So while I was on it, I was taking the Micro Daily EMF twice a day with the Brain Boost, but I was taking the Micro Daily Hydro. I was taking that 3 times, sometimes 4 times a day. And of course, I was taking some CBD as well, and the other products. So I was really hydrating myself and everything. And I was finished with everything within 5 days.
Wow.
Or even less than that. It was just amazing. I could not believe it. So I know it was from taking Micro Daily.
Wow.
That's
Dr.
amazing.
Prasad.
Yeah.
How is it possible that here's someone with a history of lung issues? Could you help us understand why she could have gotten over it so quickly and why her symptoms were so mild?
Yeah, because her immune system was good. And during that period, she increased the doses of hydro, which is quickly absorbed from your body. And therefore, that helps because the immune system also has an exhaustion. How much they can handle it.
Right.
And so by doing this kind of a strategy that you did was very useful because, even Micro Daily alone would have been, but just as an insurance that you make sure that everything is going well. And the hydro is extremely good because they are exactly the same, except for the folic acid and vitamin B12.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad to hear that experience because theoretically, what we know the science, they would predict it, that it will prevent it if you have a sufficient amount of things in your body, especially when you are fighting infection. Overall, just general people, it is okay. But once you have a epidemic of infection, then you have to keep a very high level of your micronutrient so that in the event some of them get to the system, that antioxidants also block the replication. Suppose your virus enters somehow, few of them escape, but all those things, then they have to use the cell machinery to make a new virus. But they have to make their own RNA first. Because supposedly only one virus gets. Well, they have to replicate it. So what you have to do first, you make their own viral RNA, and there is a mechanism for that. And then use host machinery, rest of the things, to make a new virus. So what antioxidant does, it blocks the production of a new viral RNA, so there is no RNA, and therefore virus cannot take the machinery.
Take that, COVID.
RNA, you can't use cell machinery to make a new virus. So this way, the antioxidant also, the micronutrient, can block the replication of the virus once they enter into your cell. So at many levels, it can.
We're talking about
inflammation.
Literally fighting back.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at multiple steps. If you escape this one, you have another one. Then, but so the body has a very good level of micronutrient. That's why
beautiful.
It is very important to have a sufficient amount of micronutrient in your body all the time, especially during epidemics or any time, really. I take all the time,
Oh.
That's
Well,
beautiful.
I also had Dr. Prasad, which I think I've shared with you, because I'm a nurse, and I have had at least 5 different patients that acquired COVID, and one in particular, he called me when it first came out, and I saw on Facebook that he was, and they weren't able to come on today, but on Facebook, he couldn't even breathe. So I called him because he used to work for me. And I said, hey, I'm really concerned about you. And he says, I can't breathe. I have a high fever of 104. And this was scary because this is when everybody was dying in the hospital. So I took the chance and I said, instead of saying, go to the hospital, I said, I am going to have my husband bring you over. And I remember, Dr. Prasad, I called you and said, okay, what should we do? I had him take the Microdaily Hydro 3 to 4 times a day and the Brain Boost. And he did that. And I was like, okay, is he going to call me? After 3-4 days, I called him and I was like a little nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, and he calls me and he goes, oh my gosh, he says, I do not have a fever anymore. It went away like the second day. And he says, I'm able to breathe. He says, I'm on the recovery. I said, keep it going. Call me Monday. So 3 days later, I called him and, because I was like thinking, oh my God, he's going to be dead or what, and I called him and he says, Jody, he said, I am back to work. He said, I feel fantastic. He said, I have no symptoms. He goes, thank you. You say those micronutrients saved my life.
Wow.
And so that was just another one, of course. And then everyone I had all my patients, they were all getting hydro. But anyway, so I just wanted to share that too, because really, I'm very passionate about how it works with COVID. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jody, thank you very, very much for sharing both of those stories. That's just, that's just amazing when you hear it.
Yes, thank you. You're welcome.
Must make you happy though, Dr. Prasad, to know that.
As I said, there is a mechanism.
Yeah.
Those mechanism works, they have been demonstrated in experimental system.
And here it is.
Now you see that it is also working in human.
In reality. So, Jeff, do we have time to sneak Kathy in also and try to get her to share her story real quick?
You know what, we do, and we also have, if you've seen there, Dolores has her hand up, and I don't know if she if she's going to add anything to it. But yeah, and then I've also got Bruce Siemens that is just literally holding his hand up, and so he wants to say something as well. So
okay, well, let's get Dolores on in there real quick. Go ahead, Dolores.
Okay. Dolores, do you want to turn your camera on?
Not really, but I will.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I had been exposed to COVID before we was being told that it was COVID. In our area, people were being told that it had upper respiratory infection and urinary tract infection. So I was exposed to COVID-19. I got really tired, really weak. run the temperature. And so what I did, I just took a lot of hydro. I took hydro about 4 times a day, 2 packs 4 times a day, and just rested. I got also I was taking the brain boost. I was taking the CBD boost, and so my husband and I both, we just continued to do that. We took a lot of hydro, and we just stayed home, stayed in bed, rested, drank a lot of liquid. And so one morning I woke up, and we still didn't know we had COVID. I woke up one morning and I could not taste nor smell.
Wow.
And then we heard on the, that was one of the symptoms of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely had it, but taking micro daily is what really helped me to stay. I never went to the doctor. We stayed home. We took the micro daily. We rested, drank a lot of liquids, and we did fine.
That's wonderful.
We did fine.
That's wonderful. And see, and there we go again, Dr. Prasad. In the early days, it had not even been announced yet what was going on. And I remember when Dolores mentioned this, and she increased that hydro, and she's telling a story. There's a lot of folks in Albany, Georgia, where she lives that cannot tell that story. They died, so they did not make it, through that process. But boy, we owe you a lot of gratitude, Dr. Prasad, for this. So thank you again, Dolores, for sharing your story.
Sure.
Okay, let's sneak Bruce in.
Bruce.
There he is. Bruce, you're going to need to unmute yourself.
Now you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I got COVID last October when I was in Montana at my brother's. I wasn't sick, but my brother could tell that I wasn't walking real steady. So he says, it was on a Friday. He says, we need to take you to the hospital, check you out because it's the weekend. I went in there. The nurse checked my vitals. Half hour later, she come in and said, you have COVID. And I says, I do not have COVID. I says, I am not sick. The interesting thing she said to me, and I've been taking Micro Daily now, micronutrients for going on 8 years. She looked at me and she said, well, I can understand you have vital signs of an 18-year-old. And I'm 86 years old. But I thought that was an interesting comment from her telling me how my vital signs went. I didn't stay at my brother's because I didn't want to give them the COVID. So 6-hour ride, I got home, went to bed. I got up. I never had a fever, never went to bed. I don't know what happened to the COVID, but I never had it at all.
That's great. Great, Bruce.
That was back in October, you said, right, Bruce?
You what?
You said that was in October?
Last October, yes.
Wow. That was just before the Omicron variant, I think, hit. So you were pre-Omicron. So you just had a very good immune system. That's how you were able to fight that. So there's another one, Dr. Prasad.
yeah, I know. That's amazing.
Well, let's wrap up by having Kathy share her story.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Prasad.
Hi, Kathy.
This has been a fantastic call. I think just putting everything in layman's terms for me, what I've been taking notes like crazy, right? But I think what really resonated with me is when you said that microdaily strengthens the immune system to the point that it blocks the replication of the virus. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah. I mean, the reason they do it because the viral needs a new RNA when they enter into the cell. So antioxidant will block the production of RNA. If there is no viral RNA, there is no virus. New virus can be formed. It is a prerequisite. You must form a viral RNA.
Wow.
Because
So
virus is just the RNA. It doesn't have any other thing. So new virus, when they enter, they can replicate many, many viruses, and they use cell machinery to use them to make it full virus. But in the earliest stage, they have to make a new RNA themselves. And then these things, they call it, there is another enzyme called reverse transcriptase that helps. If you have one RNA, new RNA is formed by this enzyme with the help of enzyme. And Dr. Temin from Wisconsin won Nobel Prize for saying that RNA can make their own RNA, and viral RNA, they make their own RNA by this mechanism. So maybe antioxidant blocks this enzyme, which facilitate to form the new RNA. But if there is no new RNA, virus is gone, no replication.
Well,
The new virus cannot be formed, so the new virus cannot be formed.
Love
no
it.
replication.
It makes it so easy to understand, because I too have that paper, Jonathan, as many of us do, right? And
Yeah.
I can get lost in the science because I'm not a scientist. And I too went through and highlighted certain pieces that I knew, okay, if I just remember this one thing, that this part of that study, it just really shed light on what was going on in my body as I was fighting the virus. So my COVID story, in January of 2021, my husband and I were actually staying with my mother for a couple of months, and we had just sold our house. We were in between, what our future plans were and all of that. Anyway, my husband ended up getting sick, and he was very stubborn and did not want to get tested, and, just really acted like he had a cold. And then, of course, I started showing symptoms. And it was when I lost my sense of taste and smell that I realized, oh, no. Well, my biggest fear in this whole COVID experience that we've all gone through was my mom, because my mom, today she's 77. So, last year, 76, but she had been diagnosed the year prior with a pretty severe autoimmune disorder. And I thought we were going to lose her when she was first diagnosed. That's how bad off she was. So knowing that she had this autoimmune problem, and then the threat of COVID looming, it was scary for me. And so when my mom started showing symptoms, it was like, uh-oh. But we were all taking micro daily, and we had been since 2018. And what I will just say is, yes, we were sick. It felt like a very bad cold is what it felt like. That fatigue, that, you just want to sleep, and, and I babied myself more with that COVID virus confirmation compared to any cold that I've ever had. I took the time to sleep and, be good to my body and all of that. But we all got through it. Within a week and a half, we were pretty much symptom free. Maybe just the fatigue seemed to hang on. But my biggest testimony in all of it is that my mom came through it as easy as I did.
Wow.
And it blew my mind. I mean, that was the thing.
Yeah.
It was like, if it were not for micro daily, I would not be surprised if my mom was not here.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Kathy,
Thank you, Kathy.
thank you for sharing your story. I'm glad that we squeezed that one in. That's amazing and rewarding, and because it helps me, Dr. Prasad, and for everyone else. Again, I went through career change because I watched my mother die. When I hear that their mothers are surviving because of some of these things that we're using now, I'm just grateful. That's all I can say. So thank you very much again, Kathy, for sharing your story.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So Dr. Prasad, is there anything that we can say from this? We owe you a tremendous amount of gratitude. We're indebted to you, and we feel we feel humbled and we're happy that we're in association with you and that we can pass this information on and we can speak to you directly. We're not talking about someone who did something. We're talking about someone who's doing something right now. And we have access to what you're doing right now.
Yeah. And those people who have a long-term problem, like you mentioned that many of these things, and if they don't take any micronutrient, it will become worse. And therefore, it is the best time to start.
Well, we're looking forward to your being interviewed tomorrow night. Dr. Michelle Millen is going to be interviewing you tomorrow night about the foundation of the immune system.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We just want
going very good one.
We're just hoping you just gonna break it down for us and just keep in mind, Dr. Prasad, you got to talk to us like we're fifth graders, okay? So just keep that in mind. That then we'll halfway keep up with you, all right? So thank you very much. And Jeff,
you done very well. You did some research to make my job easy because I don't have to say the same thing twice.
Yeah.
And only thing I have to say is how you can do it and what are the mechanisms involved and how these things helps to reduce those oxidative stress, inflammation, and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's amazing that even as a late effect, people are observing a sign of a dementia.
Yep, that's right.
I didn't know that, but I mean, within a year, this has become very clear, and it will grow more and more people because there are about 80 million people, American, who survived COVID infection by virtue of injection, by virtue of, but those people who had went to ICU or advanced stage, they are going to have all these kind of problems.
That's right.
What is that? And
that's right.
And therefore, I strongly recommend a micronutrient to a mixture that would be very helpful. Not only now, but if your esteem system is extremely good by virtue of taking micronutrient mixture, then you can have a future infection. Suppose there are new variant or there are totally brand new virus.
Right. That's right.
In the future. And so this will at least provide you initial good protection. By the time they develop vaccine, then they take a vaccine. But for initial protection, when there was no vaccine available, this was one of the best things you can do.
Yep. Give your immune system something to fight with.
And then combination do much better. See, the difference between the vaccine and the micronutrient is vaccine is effective only one type of virus. But if your immune system is very good, it's a virus, could be bacterial infection, could be any kind of new virus, could be flu virus, which is
doesn't matter what it is. Your immune system is mounting a defense.
Exactly. But if you have taken antibody, that cell remember, I've seen this guy. So they send the immune system. But so there is a difference between those two. Immune system is for any future infection, any kind of infection.
That's right.
When you take antibody, this prevents you against one type of infection, in this case, COVID-19. But again, as I said, they prevent it at different locations. They bind it here, antibody doesn't bind it, they just kill the virus. So, but virus has to enter into the cell before the immune system knows, there is somebody came, which are foreign. Without that, immune system cannot respond until the virus get into the cell. But with micronutrient, you try to prevent the virus to not get into the cell.
You slow it down.
If 2 of them get in, then virus,
that's
then
right.
the immune system can handle it.
That's right.
Your immune system is already stimulated, and therefore it is extremely good to have.
Well, I'm into stopping them at the border. I keep telling everybody it's better to deal with it before it gets in your cell than to be trying to fight it afterwards. So catch them at the border. Let's stop it there. So but thank you again.
And again, but importance of vaccine is that cell, not just today.
That's right.
But immune cell remembers forever. I've seen this virus. Let us go. You don't have to run another vaccine. They send the cell to kill it.
I'd never forget.
That is uniqueness of vaccine.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you again very much, Dr. Prasad. Do we have
Pretty
any
amazing.
other things we have to
just Yeah, I just I wanted to acknowledge that somebody let Leland know that we were talking about him. He popped back onto the call, I'm sure, to share his story. We don't have time for it. We'll have him back on. But I've been watching the chat, and we've got individuals that were invited on, and this is their first exposure to the Micro Daily, and they're already saying, "How do I get this? How do I get this? I need it ASAP. Here's what's going on." And so get back with the individual who invited you on, and that information was posted in the chat. And so that's how excited we are that we have access to Dr. Prasad. And Jonathan teed it up next evening's call. 24 hours from now, roughly, we're going to be on with Dr. Michelle Millen. And she's a formulator. She has formulated products for multiple other companies. And so she's going to bring a unique set of questions for Dr. Prasad, because she's been like Dr. Prasad. But once again, we were talking about the lighting candles and holding them up. She realizes that her formula, we'll get a chance to meet her tomorrow night, but I'm really
she's, for the first time, somebody has raised question about the microRNA, how micronutrient can help via how micronutrient really works. That what amounts to more detail.
Okay.
So we're going to have that.
I'll be there for that for sure.
Two scientists going head to head and asking questions, and it's probably going to just go right over our heads.
We will get it.
Until you know DNA and RNA, how they make protein, just 3 steps. Everybody, high school, if you have science in high school, you will know it.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, Dr. Prasad. I'm glad you say that, Dr. Prasad. But we'll hold judgment till tomorrow. We'll see.
Tomorrow will be very exciting, because some of them are there before. I tell, some of them are brand new. Her questions is brand new.
Yep.
And that would be very, very important.
I'm loving it.
All right. So yeah, get back with the person who invited you on this call and get tomorrow night's connection. It's not this same number. We're so honored to have Jonathan, and he does this every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Just so happens that this is going to be a busy week for Dr. Prasad. And
okay, so Jeff, thank you very much again. And pleasure. Dr. Prasad, thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Oh, wait, one more thing. Just remember this, folks. The FDA has not reviewed these comments. The information is for this discussion has been for information and educational purposes only, and is not intended to be a substitute for a visit to your primary healthcare physician. You've heard testimonials here today. Testimonials are anecdotal. What happened to one person may or may not happen to you. You do not know all the clinical circumstances surrounding their unique situation. Speak to your own doctor with regard to your healthcare. We strongly recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust. Good night, everybody. You can unmute yourselves now.
Good night. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye, doctor. Bye, Jonathan.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye,
Good night, Dr. Prasad.
Bye-bye.
I'll give you a call. I know you had one more question. I'll give you a call.